My name's Michael Carter, 38 years old, married to Emily for nearly 12 years. We have a daughter, Sophie, who's 10, and a house in the suburbs of Denver. On the outside, our lives look perfect. A nice home, 2 cars in the driveway, summer vacations, and family Christmas photos posted on Facebook. But if you step inside, you'd see the cracks I've been pretending not to notice for years. That night, a Thursday in late autumn, I came home exhausted. Work had been brutal. Deadlines, clients calling nonstop, my boss breathing down my neck. By the time I walked through the door, all I wanted was a shower, dinner, and the quiet comfort of my wife beside me. Emily was in bed scrolling on her phone when I finally lay down. The room glowed with the pale blue light of her screen. I reached over, brushed her shoulder lightly, and whispered, "Hey, it's been a long day. Can we just be close tonight?" She froze for a second, then turned to me with an expression I'd never forget. Cold, detached, almost disgusted. "Not tonight, Michael. Just use your hand." Her words cut through me like ice water. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe she was joking, but her eyes didn't soften. She rolled over, pulling the blanket tighter around her body, leaving me staring at the ceiling in silence. It wasn't the rejection itself that hurt. I knew couples go through dry spells. It was the way she said it, the casual cruelty, as if my needs were an inconvenience she couldn't be bothered with. Something about that moment planted a seed of suspicion in me. I lay awake long after she drifted off, listening to the even rhythm of her breathing. My mind raced. Over the past few months, she'd been distant, always tired, always busy, always on her phone. She used to laugh at my dumb jokes, kiss me when I walked in the door, cuddle with me on the couch while we watched Netflix. Now it was like living with a stranger. I thought back to the changes, how she started going to yoga classes twice a week but never seemed sweaty when she came home. The sudden urge to update her wardrobe, to wear perfume even when running errands. And of course, the constant texting late at night, her screen turned away from me. That night, rejection wasn't just rejection. It was confirmation of the gnawing fear I'd buried under excuses. Maybe she really was tired. Maybe she was stressed about Sophie's school. Maybe she just needed space. But deep down, I couldn't shake the thought, what if there's someone else? I wanted to wake her up, confront her, demand answers. But instead, I lay there in the dark, fists clenched, my chest heavy with hurt and anger. I promised myself I wouldn't jump to conclusions. Still, I also promised I would pay attention from now on. Every little detail, every strange excuse, every sign I had ignored before. When morning came, Emily was cheerful, almost too cheerful. She kissed Sophie goodbye before school, hummed while making coffee, asked me about my schedule, as if nothing had happened. I played along, but inside, I was watching her like a detective. That night, my marriage changed forever. Not because she refused me, but because I finally decided to stop ignoring the truth. The morning after Emily rejected me, everything felt different. Even though the world outside looked exactly the same. The sun came through the blinds, Sophie rushed around trying to find her homework, the smell of toast and coffee filled the kitchen. From the outside, it was a perfectly normal Friday morning. But inside me, something had shifted. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee, pretending to check emails on my phone. But my eyes kept drifting toward Emily. She was dressed in a fitted blouse and jeans that hugged her figure, hair neatly done, makeup light but carefully applied. She looked good, better than usual for a day when she claimed she had nothing special planned. "Big day at work?" I asked casually. She glanced up, almost startled, then smiled too quickly. "Oh, not really. Just thought I'd run some errands after dropping Sophie at school." Her answer should have been harmless, but it stuck with me. Errands didn't usually require lipstick and perfume. When Sophie left, Emily lingered in the kitchen, scrolling on her phone again. I tried to peek, but she tilted the screen just enough to keep it out of view. My gut tightened. I forced a smile and kissed her cheek goodbye before heading to work. She barely turned her head toward me, eyes still glued to her phone. Driving to the office, I couldn't shake the unease. For years, I had trusted Emily completely. She had been my anchor, my partner, my best friend. But now, every detail felt suspicious. The way she laughed at text messages but went silent when I walked in. The sudden workouts she never seemed tired from. The way she avoided intimacy as if it was an obligation. At work, I tried to focus on emails and meetings, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept replaying the moment from last night, her voice saying, "Use your hand." The dismissal in her tone, like she wasn't her husband anymore, but just a roommate paying the bills. By lunchtime, I couldn't take it. I pulled out my phone and checked our shared calendar. She hadn't marked any yoga classes that day. I scrolled through old entries. Every week, twice, sometimes 3 times, she wrote yoga in the evenings. I realized I'd never actually confirmed where she went. I just assumed. The thought made my stomach churn. Had I really been that blind? That evening, when I came home, she wasn't there. A note on the counter read, "At yoga, back at 8. I stared at the paper, my hands trembling. Yoga. Again. I sat down on the couch. The house eerily quiet. Sophie in her room working on homework. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But I couldn't. Not anymore. At 8:15, the garage door opened and Emily walked in. Her hair was perfect, makeup untouched, not a drop of sweat on her. She smelled faintly of cologne. Not perfume, cologne. My chest tightened as if someone had wrapped a band around my ribs. "Yoga run late?" I asked, forcing my voice steady. She blinked, then smiled too quickly. "Oh, not really. Just thought I'd run some errands after dropping Sophie at school." That night, after she fell asleep, I lay awake again. This time, I didn't just stew in silence. I pulled out my phone, opened the map app, and pinned the local yoga studio. Tomorrow, I would drive there. I needed to know the truth, even if it broke me. For the first time in my marriage, I wasn't just a husband. I was a man preparing to become a detective in his own home. The next day, Saturday, I woke up earlier than usual. My mind was buzzing with plans. Emily had mentioned she'd be going to yoga again that morning. Normally, I would have taken her word for it without question, but things had changed. Now, every excuse sounded like a possible lie. She dressed in her usual yoga outfit, black leggings, a fitted tank top, and her hair pulled back into a ponytail. But I noticed something odd. Her makeup. She applied mascara and lip gloss, just enough to brighten her face. For a workout? That didn't make sense. "Heading out?" I asked, leaning casually against the doorframe. "Yeah, the 9 a.m. class," she replied, tying her sneakers. She avoided my eyes, focusing on the laces as if they were the most important task in the world. I forced a smile. "Have fun." The moment she pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed my keys and followed at a distance. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. I felt like a fool, sneaking behind my own wife, but I needed the truth. Emily's car turned left, toward downtown. The yoga studio was 10 minutes away, but halfway there, she didn't take the exit. Instead, she kept driving. I trailed 2 cars behind, praying she wouldn't glance in the rearview mirror and recognize my vehicle. Finally, she pulled into the parking lot of a small cafe, not the yoga studio. A cafe I'd never seen her visit before. I parked down the block, my palms sweating on the steering wheel. She got out of the car, adjusted her ponytail, and walked inside. A few minutes later, a man appeared. He was tall, maybe in his 40s, wearing a casual button-up shirt. He walked straight into the cafe, and I swear I saw her face light up through the glass window when he sat across from her. My throat went dry. I sat there for nearly an hour watching them talk, laugh, and lean toward each other in ways I hadn't seen from her in months. My chest burned with betrayal. It wasn't just the possibility of intimacy. It was the intimacy of conversation, the comfort she used to share with me, but now reserved for someone else. When Emily finally left, she hugged the man quickly, then walked back to her car. I stayed frozen in my seat, unable to breathe. She didn't go home right away. She drove around for another 15 minutes, probably to make it look like she'd been at yoga class. By the time she pulled into our driveway, I was already parked a block away, making sure I arrived later. When I stepped into the house, she greeted me with a bright smile. "Yoga was great today. I feel amazing." I forced a grin, pretending I believed her. But inside, something shattered. That afternoon, I kept to myself. I played with Sophie, mowed the lawn, anything to avoid looking Emily in the eye. My head was spinning with questions. Who was that man? How long had this been going on? Was it physical or just emotional? Did it even matter? Betrayal was betrayal. That night, I couldn't keep my eyes off her as she cooked dinner. She hummed lightly, swaying her hips to some silent tune. It was the same hum I had heard years ago, when she was happy, when she used to dance with me in the kitchen. Now, that joy was being shared with someone else. After Sophie went to bed, Emily sat on the couch, scrolling her phone again. I watched the glow on her face, the tiny smile she tried to hide, the quick taps of her fingers. My hands clenched into fists. I wanted to grab the phone, to demand answers, but I didn't. Not yet. Confronting her without proof could backfire. She could twist it, deny it, make me look crazy. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to rely on suspicion alone. I would gather evidence, piece by piece, until the truth was undeniable. Because the first clues were already in front of me, and I knew deep down, this was only the beginning. The days that followed felt like walking through a minefield. From the outside, our family life looked the same. Dinners at the table, school drop-offs, casual conversations about groceries or bills. But underneath, there was a war brewing, silent and tense. I knew something Emily didn't, that she wasn't going to yoga, that she was meeting a man at a cafe. Every time she mentioned her class, it was like a dagger twisting in my chest. Yet, I said nothing. I smiled, nodded, played the role of the clueless husband, all while cataloging every lie she fed me. Inside, though, I was unraveling. At work, I couldn't focus. Spreadsheets blurred before my eyes, and meetings felt like meaningless noise. All I could think about was Emily's secret smile, the one she no longer gave me but reserved for him. Who was he? A coworker? An old flame? Just some guy she'd met online. I imagined all the possibilities, each one worse than the last. One evening, after Sophie went to bed, Emily sat on the couch, phone in hand, laughing softly at something on the screen. I asked casually, "Who are you texting?" Her head snapped up, her eyes wide for a second before she composed herself. "Oh, just Sarah. She sent me a funny meme." Sarah, her best friend since college. The perfect alibi. I forced a chuckle.
Must be hilarious. You've been glued to that screen all night." Her lips tightened, and she slipped the phone face down on the coffee table. "Don't start, Michael. It's just a joke from a friend." That was the moment I realized we weren't partners anymore. We were opponents, circling each other, waiting for one to make a wrong move. I began watching her more closely. She guarded her phone like it was a vault, carrying it everywhere, even to the bathroom. She changed her passcode, something she hadn't done in years. She stayed up later than usual, the glow of her screen illuminating her face long after midnight. Meanwhile, I played my own part in this silent war. I acted normal, kept the house running, took Sophie to school, paid the bills. But inside, I was strategizing. If Emily thought she could lie to me so easily, then I would show her I wasn't the blind fool she believed. I started checking bank statements. Small charges popped up from that same cafe, twice a week. Oddly, the amounts never looked like meals for one. One Saturday, I accidentally drove by the cafe while Emily was supposedly at yoga. Sure enough, her car was parked outside. Through the window, I saw her again with the same man. This time he reached across the table and brushed her hand. She didn't pull away. My vision blurred with rage. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I wanted to storm inside, to drag her out, to demand answers in front of everyone. But I didn't. Not yet. Evidence. I needed more than just suspicions and glimpses through glass. That night, Emily came home humming, the faintest trace of cologne clinging to her clothes. Sophie ran into her arms, and Emily hugged her tightly, smiling like the perfect mother. The contrast made me sick. How could she wear two faces so easily? When Emily finally went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, staring into the darkness. I realized this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about respect, or rather, the lack of it. She thought I was too weak, too oblivious to notice. She thought she could live two lives without consequence. But she was wrong. This silent war couldn't last forever. Sooner or later, one of us would break. And I was determined it wasn't me.
There's a strange thing that happens when your world begins to crack. Memories you thought were long buried start clawing their way back to the surface, demanding to be seen again. That's what happened to me in the weeks after I discovered Emily's secret meetings. At night, when I couldn't sleep, I found myself drifting back to the early years of our marriage. The honeymoon phase, the laughter, the nights we'd stay up talking about our dreams until the sun came up. Emily used to look at me like I was the only man in the room, like I was her safe place. I remembered the first apartment we shared, a tiny one-bedroom with peeling wallpaper and a stove that barely worked. We didn't have much, but we had each other. She used to surprise me with handwritten notes in my lunch bag. I used to bring home cheap grocery store flowers just to see her smile. Back then, intimacy wasn't just about sex, it was about connection, trust, and the little ways we showed we cared. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. As my career advanced, I started working longer hours. Emily stayed home with Sophie, and I told myself I was doing the right thing by providing. Bills were paid, the fridge was full, and we eventually upgraded to a bigger house. I thought comfort was enough. Maybe that was my mistake. Because while I was busy being the provider, Emily stopped being my partner. I gave her financial security, but maybe I neglected the emotional side of things. I told myself she understood. I told myself we were a team. But perhaps she started to feel invisible in her own way, just as I now felt invisible in mine. One night, after Sophie was asleep, I found myself staring at Emily across the room. She was scrolling on her phone again, lost in her secret world. For a brief moment, I imagined the younger version of us, curled up together on that old second-hand couch, her head resting on my chest. And then I looked at the woman in front of me now, a stranger with secrets in her eyes. The contrast was unbearable. I thought about all the times I'd ignored my gut, when she first started going to yoga, when she laughed a little too hard at her messages, when she pushed me away in bed. I told myself I was overthinking, that I trusted her. But in reality, I had been afraid of the truth, afraid of rocking the boat, afraid of losing her. My silence, my blind trust, had given her permission to drift further and further away. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. I wasn't just the victim here. In some way, I was a contributor. I had allowed the distance to grow by pretending it wasn't there. But recognizing that didn't erase the betrayal. It didn't make the sight of her holding another man's hand any less painful. If anything, it made it worse. Because I knew now that love isn't just about providing or sacrificing. It's about staying connected. And we had both failed. The difference was, I was willing to fight for it. I wasn't sure Emily was. That night, I stood at our bedroom door for a long time, watching her sleep. Her face looked peaceful, almost innocent, as if she wasn't hiding anything at all. For a split second, I wanted to believe it was all in my head, that maybe the man at the cafe was just a friend, that maybe the cologne was just from a crowded room. But then I remembered her words, "Use your hand." Cold, detached, dismissive. No, this wasn't in my head. The woman lying in front of me wasn't the Emily I married. She was someone else now, someone I didn't fully recognize. I realized that sooner or later, I would have to confront her. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, pretending everything was fine while my heart rotted from the inside out. But I also knew I couldn't walk into that confrontation unprepared. She was clever, and if I accused her without undeniable proof, she'd twist it, make me the paranoid husband, maybe even turn Sophie against me. No, I had to be smart, patient, calculated. Because the truth was out there, and I was determined to drag it into the light, even if it destroyed us. It happened on a Wednesday evening, one of those nights when the air in the house felt thick with tension you could almost taste. Emily had just come home from another so-called yoga class. Her cheeks were flushed, not from exercise, but from something else, something I no longer had to imagine. I was waiting in the kitchen, leaning against the counter with my arms crossed. Sophie was at a friend's house for a sleepover. For the first time in weeks, it was just the two of us. "Hey," Emily said lightly, hanging her bag on the chair. "Dinner yet?" "Not hungry." My voice came out harder than I intended. She froze, sensing something was wrong. "Michael, what's going on?" I stared at her for a long moment, the words boiling inside me. I'd rehearsed this confrontation 100 times in my head. But when I opened my mouth, all that came out was raw anger. "Stop lying to me." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "Yoga." I spat the word like it was poison. "There is no yoga. I followed you, Emily. I saw you at the cafe. With him." Her face drained of color, then flushed with anger. "You followed me? Are you serious? Do you realize how insane that is?" "Insane?" I laughed bitterly. "How about telling your husband to take care of himself while you're out holding hands with another man? How about lying to my face every single week?" She opened her mouth, then closed it, struggling for words. Finally, she snapped, "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I shot back. "You think I didn't notice the perfume, the phone you guard like it's the nuclear codes, the late-night texting? Don't insult me by pretending it's nothing."
Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was sharp. "You've been absent for years, Michael. Always working, always too tired. Do you know what it's like to feel invisible in your own marriage? To feel like nothing more than a maid and a mother?" Her words hit me harder than I expected, because deep down, I knew there was truth in them. But truth didn't excuse betrayal. "I worked those hours for us," I said, my voice shaking, "so you and Sophie could have everything you wanted. A house, security, a future. And while I was killing myself to provide, you found someone else to make you feel special?" She wiped her eyes angrily. "He listens to me, Michael. He actually sees me. Do you have any idea how long it's been since you looked at me like I mattered?" Her confession sliced through me. Rage and heartbreak tangled in my chest until I could barely breathe. "So that's it?" I asked quietly. "Instead of talking to me, instead of fighting for us, you decided to sneak around like a coward?" Emily turned away, covering her face with her hands. For a moment, the kitchen was silent except for her shaky breathing. Then she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I closed my eyes, every muscle in my body tense. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand every detail, but all I managed was a whisper. "You broke us, Emily." When she looked at me again, her face was streaked with tears. "I'm sorry." The word sounded hollow, like a Band-Aid slapped on a wound that needed surgery. I walked past her, my chest tight, my vision blurred. I didn't trust myself to stay in the same room. I grabbed my keys and left the house, the slam of the door echoing like a gunshot. That night, I sat in my car by the park, staring at nothing. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I had confronted her. I had proof. But instead of relief, all I felt was emptiness. The truth was finally out, but so was the ugly reality. My marriage was no longer the safe place it once had been. It was a battlefield, and I wasn't sure either of us would survive it. The night I confronted Emily marked a turning point. After I stormed out, I didn't come back home until almost 2 a.m. I sat in my car for hours, replaying every word, every tear, every excuse. Part of me wanted to drive away and never look back. But another part, the husband, the father, knew that running wasn't an answer. When I finally walked through the door, the house was dark and quiet. Emily was asleep on the couch, clutching a pillow like a lifeline. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at her. She looked small, fragile even, not like the defiant woman I'd argued with hours earlier. I felt a pang of something I hadn't expected, pity. The next few days were heavy with silence. We spoke only about Sophie, her school, her homework, her soccer practices. Everything else was off limits. But underneath that silence, something was shifting. I noticed Emily watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. Her eyes weren't cold anymore. They were filled with something else. Fear, maybe regret. On Friday night, she finally broke. I was in the kitchen rinsing dishes when she walked in, her face pale, eyes red from crying. "Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We need to talk." I dried my hands and leaned against the counter, bracing myself. "I'm listening." She took a deep breath. I messed up. I don't even know how it started. At first, it was just someone to talk to. He made me feel seen, like I mattered again. But
I never stopped loving you. I swear, Michael, I didn't. I just... Her voice cracked, and she pressed her hand to her mouth. For the first time, I saw her pride crumble. She wasn't defensive. She wasn't angry. She was broken. You don't get it, I said quietly. It wasn't just the lies. It's that you didn't trust me enough to come to me when you felt invisible. You gave your heart to someone else instead. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I didn't mean to destroy us. I was selfish, and I thought I could keep it separate. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. I stared at her, my chest tight. Part of me wanted to forgive her right there, to wrap her in my arms and pretend none of it had happened. But another part, the wounded part, kept whispering, "Don't be fooled. Don't let her break you again." Why should I believe you now? I asked. Because I'm telling you everything. No more secrets. I ended it. I told him it's over. I searched her face for signs of a lie. For once, she looked raw, exposed, like she had nothing left to hide. The rest of the night, we sat at the table, talking through the wreckage. She admitted how lonely she had felt, how she resented my long hours at work. I admitted how blind I'd been, how I thought money and stability were enough to hold a marriage together. It wasn't an apology tour. It wasn't magical forgiveness. It was messy, painful honesty. And in that honesty, I felt something stir inside me, a faint glimmer of hope. But I wasn't naive. I knew words were cheap. Change had to be proven, not promised. That weekend, Emily started making small gestures. She cooked my favorite dinner. She left her phone face up on the table, as if to show she had nothing to hide. She asked me about my day, not just casually, but with genuine interest. I appreciated the effort, but deep down I couldn't shake the doubt. Was this real remorse, or just fear of losing the comfort of our life together? Was she fighting for me, or just for the stability I provided? Those questions haunted me as I lay in bed beside her. She reached for my hand one night, squeezing it tightly, as if begging me not to let go. I squeezed back, but my heart remained guarded. For the first time in our marriage, I wasn't sure where we stood. But I knew one thing. I would never go back to being blind, silent, or taken for granted. Emily had awakened to the reality of what she had done. And I had awakened too, to the fact that love without respect is just a slow death. The next step would decide everything, whether we could rebuild or whether it was finally time to walk away. Sunday evening, the house was quiet after dinner. Sophie was in her room working on a school project, her music drifting faintly through the walls. Emily and I sat across from each other at the kitchen table, 2 cups of untouched coffee cooling between us. It felt like we were standing at a crossroads, even though we hadn't left our chairs. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around her mug. "Michael," she began, her voice soft, "I know I don't deserve it, but I want another chance. Not just for me, for us, for Sophie. I'll do whatever it takes." I studied her face, the vulnerability in her eyes. Weeks ago, she had been distant, dismissive, even cruel. Now she looked stripped of her armor, terrified of losing everything. "I don't know if I can just flip a switch and trust you again," I admitted. My throat felt tight as the words came out. "When I saw you with him, something broke inside me. You weren't just my wife. You were the person I thought I could count on more than anyone. And now I'm not sure who you are." Tears welled in her eyes,
but she didn't look away. "I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. I don't even expect you to believe me right now. All I can do is show you. Every day. I'll be transparent, honest, whatever you need me to be." The silence between us stretched. I thought about everything we had been through. The early years of love, the long hours I worked to provide, the nights she felt invisible, the betrayal that nearly destroyed us. I thought about Sophie, her smile, her innocence. She didn't deserve to grow up in a broken home because her parents couldn't figure things out. But staying together out of obligation wasn't the answer either. "I need you to understand something," I said finally. "This isn't about money or stability. It's not about keeping up appearances for Sophie. If we're going to rebuild, it has to be real. Mutual respect, honesty, intimacy. Not just words, actions. If you can't give me that, then there's no point." She nodded quickly, wiping her tears. "I can. I will. Just don't give up on me yet." For the first time in a long while, I felt the wall around my heart crack, just a little, enough to let in a flicker of hope. That night, after Sophie went to bed, Emily sat beside me on the couch. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't distract herself. She just sat there, her hand resting lightly on mine. No words, no demands, just presence. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental. In the days that followed, I saw more of those changes. She stopped going to yoga. Instead, she asked if I wanted to take walks with her in the evenings. She left her phone on the counter, notifications buzzing in plain sight. She listened when I talked about work, laughed at my corny jokes again, even surprised me with little notes in my lunch like she used to. But even with all of that, the doubt lingered. Trust, once broken, isn't easily mended. Sometimes, lying in bed, I'd catch myself wondering if she still thought about him, if she missed him, if she regretted choosing me. That's the reality of betrayal. It doesn't just disappear because someone says, "I'm sorry." One evening, we finally had the conversation I knew we needed. "Michael," she said, her voice steady this time, "I don't want to live in the shadow of my mistake forever. I need to know if you can forgive me. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. Because if you can't, then we're just dragging this out." I took a deep breath, my chest heavy. I don't have that answer yet. All I know is that I'm willing to try, but it has to be both of us every single day. No more secrets, no more lies. She nodded, and for the first time, I believed she meant it. So here we are weeks later, still navigating the wreckage. Some days feel hopeful, others feel impossible. But we're trying, for ourselves, for Sophie, for the love that once held us together. Whether we rebuild something stronger or eventually fall apart, only time will tell. But one thing is certain, I will never again be the silent husband, blind to the signs. I will never again settle for a marriage built on half-truths. If Emily wants me as her husband, she has to treat me as one. Not as a paycheck, not as a background character, but as her partner. Because respect and love can't survive one-sided. And if we fail, it won't be because I didn't fight. It'll be because she couldn't meet me halfway.